Welcome to Relate Higher, a podcast dedicated to providing the leading standard in conscious higher relating and to teaching you a conscious framework for all of your relationships. This is your go-to resource for developing meaningful, conscious relationships across your life. I'm your host, award-winning relationship coach and consultant and former family lawyer, Letitia Ringe. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. In today's episode, we are talking about how to design a life that fulfills you. This is part of our second series on the podcast, which is all about creating and cultivating a conscious relationship with yourself so that you have the capacity to be in conscious, thriving, great, deeply fulfilling relationships with all the people that you are relating with and in relationship with across your life, including a romantic partner if you're in a romantic relationship or if you desire to be in one. Now, it's so important that you make sure, first of all, that you know what you need and desire in your life to live a life that fulfills you. And it's also important, number two, that you make decisions and choices along the way that is in alignment with those needs and those desires. You are the only person who has the power to ensure that you do this. And it requires two things. First of all, checking in with yourself regularly to get to know yourself. This is what I call self-discovery and self-awareness. You need to make sure you give yourself intentional time where you ask yourself, what do I need? What do I desire now? What are my dreams? What are my non-negotiables? What support do I need in my life to be and feel fulfilled? Your answer to this question will change. Some things might remain the same throughout your life, but a lot of what you need and desire will change. It could be that a particular feeling or quality, or you have a particular interest and that remains the same, but the expression of it, the way you fulfill that need or desire, changes throughout your life. And the only way you will know about that is if you tune in and ask yourself the questions. But so many people don't do this. They look outside themselves for these answers, or they just believe that they can't have what they need and what they want. And so sometimes we don't even ask the question at all because it comes from this place of not believing that it's possible for us or that we have any choice. We feel trapped and despairing. But the truth is, you can design your life any way you want it to be. Seriously, anything that you need, anything that you desire, you can work to creating it. Secondly, you need to make sure that as you move throughout your life, the decisions that you make, the actions that you take, the choices that you make are in alignment with what you need and desire. That is how you move closer to designing a life that actually fulfills you. Now, what is difficult about this is that sometimes we, first of all, get the answers from other people, or we hold ourselves to answers that were true for us, perhaps in the past, or partially true for us, and then we just expect that what we need and desire is going to remain the same forever. But we are all growing and evolving. We are going to continue to discover new layers to ourselves throughout our life. That's the whole point of our life here. And so we need to make sure we're regularly checking in. But what happens is we create an identity around what we need and desire. Sometimes we even decide that's a good desire, that's a bad desire. And then we don't allow ourselves to take those choices and make those decisions that actually are in alignment with those needs and desires. Something else, we all can have a really bad relationship with our needs and desires. On the one hand, needs can feel really heavy. They can also feel like a weakness. This is something I need. We then judge whether it's a good enough need, whether someone else has that need, whether we're worthy of that need, whether that's an embarrassing need, rather than it being neutral. This is just something that I need to feel fulfilled, to feel like I'm deeply thriving in my life. And then our relationship with desire can have so much attachment to it. We believe that if we don't think that we can realize the full extent of our dream, then that means there's something wrong with us, or we shouldn't go after the dream at all. What you need to understand about desires is that it's not always about attaining the desire. Your desire is a calling from yourself, from your higher self, to a path that you're meant to go on. The purpose is the journey. It's not about attaining the desire. You might attain the desire, you might realize that dream, but deeper than that is where that dream will take you. And this is a beautiful thing to know, because then there is less attachment on the desire. Also, simply having desires is so much more magnetic. Have you ever been around someone who has no dreams, no desires, no inspiration, no passion, nothing that they want to create? That is boring. No one is interested in that. And we do this to ourselves so often. So we're actually bored with ourselves. Don't be like that. You have dreams and desires, and one of the reasons why you may not be allowing yourself to acknowledge what they are is because you're telling yourself it can't happen, or you're going to make it mean something negative about yourself if it doesn't happen. The point is to be on the journey of attaining those desires, but not to actually attain them themselves. It might happen, but it might not. The journey is what actually matters. When you're creating a conscious relationship with yourself, it is your job to be aware of what your needs and desires are. No one else can work this out for you. And being conscious is about being self-aware. It's about looking within yourself, noticing what you need as a human to function and to thrive. You are able to detect this information, and then you can communicate it with other people. Now, you communicate what you need and desire first and foremost by the way you treat yourself. When people see the life that you're living, what your priorities are, how you spend your time, what decisions you make, what you say yes to, what you say no to, you are teaching people about what you need and desire. This sets the tone for your relationships. They now know this is who you are. This is what you stand for. This is what you need and desire. And so if I'm in relationship with this person, I'm able to see what they need and desire because they are being honest by the way they're living about those needs and desires. That is our job in relationships. And it's our job as being the stewards of ourselves. That is no one else's job. It's only our own. Now, it's also really important for the relationships that you are taking care of yourself, that you understand what you need and desire so that you can take care of yourself, and that you are living a life and designing a life and aligning your life so that it deeply fulfills you. Why? Because you then get to bring that energy of fulfillment to your relationships. This means instead of depending on your relationships, especially a romantic partner, to fulfill you, you get to go to the next level that so many people and most people never get to because they don't do this step that I'm teaching in this episode today. You get to share a fulfilling life with someone else. And it's very likely that if you have designed your life so that it fulfills you, that the people you attract into your life have also designed a life that fulfills them. This allows for so much more diversity in your experience because you get to also be lifted up by their inspiration and by their energy. And that's what you're doing and giving to the people around you. You're inspiring, you're interesting, you're generating energy, and this allows you to share that energy with others. Now, sometimes the people around you will be looking up to you and seeing your example, and that will have them either step up into that way of living for themselves as well, or it might make them feel a little bit like oh, you can have that, but I can't. At some point along their journey, they will realize that they can have it too. But you never want to shrink yourself. You never want to pretend that you're someone else. You never want to wrongly communicate what you need and desire to others, because that just sends the message that either your needs and desires don't matter, which means their needs and desires don't matter. It also sends the message that, hey, this isn't an open, welcoming, authentic environment here. This is an environment where we all put on a uniform and a mask and we relate to each other through a lens of what we think we should be, which is horrible for everyone. And it also means that they will never really know the true you. This is not what you want. You want to be able to show up in your relationships as you are. It's so liberating. You want to bring energy because you're not feeding off other people for that energy. And you want to be radically honest about who you are and what you need and what you desire, because then other people are able to enter the dance with you, and it's a great dance. It's a dance that's shared rather than one where everybody's on the dance floor, but they're not even into it, they're not enjoying it. In fact, they're just depending on each other to be in the dance. It's not fun. People want to leave the dance. That is not what we want in life or our relationships. Okay, so in this episode today, I'm going to share with you the 3 specific areas you need to turn your mind to in order to design a life that fulfills you. I'm also going to give you some really important journal questions and exercises so that you can become aware of what a life that fulfills you looks like today. Okay, so to design a life that fulfills you, you want to look at these 3 areas. Firstly, you want to take a macro look at your life and make sure the 7 different areas of your life that make up your life are all being tended to. You want to make sure you understand what you need in those areas, what you desire in those areas, and you want to make sure that you're clear on this so that you know what you're moving towards, creating. These could be goals, they could be intentions, they could be rituals and routines. It really doesn't matter. You just want to take a look at each of these areas and ask yourself, what do I need and what do I desire in each of these areas? I'll read out what the 7 areas are. I'm going to look at a list because I always forget one of them. The first is your money and finances. The second area is health and body. The third area, home and your possessions. The fourth area are your relationships, so your whole relationship ecosystem. The fifth is your career and contribution. The sixth is spirituality. And the seventh is fun and hobbies. So you want to make sure you know what your non-negotiables are in each of these areas. What is non-negotiable for you in these areas? And then secondly, what are your dreams and desires within each of these areas? This will allow you to take a macro view of your life so that as you're out and about in your day-to-day and opportunities come your way, or you're making decisions, or you're choosing what actions to take, you can ask yourself, are my decisions and choices and actions in alignment with this picture that I've just mapped out about my non-negotiables, i.e. my needs and my dreams and desires? Okay, the second area is where we dive in and we go closer. We want to look at your lifestyle, your day-to-day, the way you live your life. You want to look at your routines, your habits, your rituals. What are you doing on a day-to-day basis, or on a weekly basis, a monthly basis, an annual basis? And how is this aligned with that macro perspective of your life? Now, in order to design a lifestyle that fulfills you, you want to get information about where you are today, and you want that information to be about what would allow you to thrive through a holistic lens as you are today. I'm going to give you an exercise for this. This is something I call a holistic assessment. It is where you take a holistic assessment of your life right now, today. This is different to the macro perspective because it's really about what do you need right now, day to day, week to week, month to month, year to year in your life to feel like you're thriving rather than surviving. So what you want to do is you want to look at 6 different areas to yourself as a human. You want to look at what you need to thrive financially, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, creatively, and physically. Now, what I want you to do is ask yourself, out of 10, 10 being I'm absolutely thriving, number 1 being I'm barely surviving, I want you to rate each of those 6 areas in your life right now and how you feel from 1 to 10. Are you barely surviving? Are you somewhere in the middle? Or are you thriving? Don't think about it. Just go through it and answer the question, the first number that comes up. Then when you go back through that list of numbers you've written to each of those 6 areas, I then want you to ask the question, why? Why did I give it that number? This is going to give you so much amazing information. And then I want you to ask yourself, if I had to bring that number to a 10 out of 10, what would that take? What would that mean? This exercise, this holistic assessment of your life, will give you information about what you need in terms of your lifestyle in order to feel that you're fulfilled and thriving across your life. Then thirdly and finally, the third area to designing a life that fulfills you is about your purpose and potential. You want to feel as a human that you are growing, that you're evolving, that you're on purpose, that you're being yourself, that you're discovering another layer to yourself, that you're expanding, that you are fulfilling your potential. Now, where people get tripped up about this is they think, I need to know all the answers right now, but that's not how life works, if you haven't figured that out already. Life will reveal to you, moment to moment, step by step, what the next area of growth is for you. Your job is to trust where it's taking you, how it's allowing you to expand, and to focus on the clarity that you do have now. So when we ask, what is your purpose and potential? What are you aware of right now? How do you want to grow? How do you want to evolve next? And you want to allow yourself to not censor or filter the information that comes in for that question. You want to ask yourself, what is my next step? Because sometimes the answer we get feels so big and overwhelming. Other times it feels like not enough. Trust what you get, and if it does feel overwhelming, just ask yourself, what is the next step that I need to take here? Ask your inner wisdom, receive the clarity. If you don't have clarity, allow yourself to wait for clarity to arrive. Clarity is not something we get by forcing it to happen. It can be supported through taking the action that you know you should take now, or taking the best action you can think of now. But you also sometimes just need to enjoy, to relax, to open up so that clarity can arrive. There is no right answer to what your purpose or potential is, but what there will be most likely is some discomfort, because wherever you're growing and evolving, you're moving into new territory, and that's just uncomfortable. That's the nature of growth and evolution. So if you're feeling resistant, if you're feeling scared, if you're feeling uncomfortable, you are exactly in the right place. If it feels like hard work sometimes, that's okay. You can do hard things. And so much of what deeply fulfills and nourishes us are those things that we overcame, those challenges we moved through. We see the way that we learned, the way that we growed, the aspects to ourselves that we discovered that we at one point didn't believe we could ever see or know. But as you're looking back with hindsight, the future version of yourself who's already overcome or already grown and evolved in that way, it's nothing to them because you've already done it. So remember that no matter what it is that feels scary, there's a version of you in the future who's already expanded in that way, and they are very comfortable with that expansion. So you want to make sure that you're always asking yourself, what is my purpose and potential? What is the next step on that path? And you prioritize moving towards that. So they are the 3 different aspects to designing a life that fulfills you. Now that you have this awareness, it's your job to take the actions, make the decisions, make the choices along the way that are in alignment with this macro and micro perspective and with your next step that is about your purpose and potential. It's your job to say yes to what is a yes and no to what is a no. This allows you to show up honestly and authentically, and it allows other people to really get to know you, which allows you to feel seen and heard, and it creates an environment where they get to feel seen and heard and known as well. So take yourself through those 3 different areas and the questions and exercise that I've given for you there. And if you want to go deeper into this, I support my clients to design a life that fulfills them in my conscious relationship coaching program. This is part of the work we do when we work on any aspect of your relationships, whether it's your love life or whether it's another relationship area in your life. We want to make sure that you are designing a life that fulfills you. So if you want support with that, make sure you apply for my conscious relationship coaching program and I will help you through this process. You can create a life that fulfills you and it will support your relationships. You can make that application at relatehigher.com/CRCP. I also want you to know that you want to make sure you're not a perfectionist about this. This is not something you have to get perfect before you can be in relationship with other people. This is a lifelong work and practice. You learning how to design a life that fulfills you will set you up with the tools to do that, but it will change in the way that it looks and in the way you embody a life that fulfills you along the way. Once you have the tools, you know the process, and it means that you can show other people how to show up for their lives in that way. But don't be mistaken that this means you've got to get it all right and figured out first, because remember, it's always in flux. All right, my beautiful friends, if you've got any questions about this episode, don't hesitate to reach out and share with me over on Instagram at Letitia Ringe. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next episode. Goodbye. Thank you for listening to Relate Higher, your go-to resource for learning how to consciously approach all of your relationships. To deepen your learning and practice, make sure you're subscribed to receive the Relate Higher community newsletter. This is a weekly newsletter sent to you every Monday, providing further coaching and education to support your relationships. Subscribe at relatehigher.com/community. And if you haven't yet left a 5-star review for the podcast, we ask that you please do that now so that this podcast can reach other listeners who also want to learn and practice conscious higher relating. Because remember, the more people who learn, the better relationships we all enjoy.